Thank you, and thank you for taking time out of your week to be here. This is obviously something that we're interested in, and hopefully we will give a little bit of an overview so that it's something that you will be a little more interested in, and something that you'll understand how it fits into your everyday activities, both professionally and as a consumer. It's important to understand where some of these risks are for you as well. So what I'll do first is a brief overview of counterfeiting, expanding on what Jeremy just laid out. A few kind of practical examples that may surprise you. I frequently get a response of a jaw dropping or someone going a little bit white in the audience. So we'll watch for you out there. Watch for each other if someone starts to get woozy there. First off, the FBI has called this possibly the crime of the 21st century. That's a pretty intense statement if you really take that as something that they might mean. But if you think about it, that as we get more information and technology, the ability to understand criminal organizations, that this product fraud is a great crime opportunity for groups like organized crime groups. Products moving around the world much faster than it ever has before. We rely on globalization and the speed of products moving across borders to help our own economy, but at the same time, they find ways that they can slip through. Also, the Council of Europe did a report on counterfeit medicines, and they called it possibly a silent pandemic. And those are two key words. Pandemic is a disease that's growing. So the silent disease, why would counterfeit medicines be a silent disease? Well, example would be a vaccine. So say we vaccinate infants here in Michigan, and some of those vaccines happen to be counterfeit and are inert. Then we think that they're vaccinated, but they're not. And so that's where this disease can go on, and it's silent because we really have no idea until much farther along that there could actually be a problem. I added this slide with a lot of detail for you just to have to take away. There's many examples of counterfeiting going on. No product is too inexpensive to counterfeit. You know, it used to be harder to have this presentation before melamine was in pet food. Melamine can be considered a counterfeit additive. And also toothpaste in dollar stores, branded toothpaste in dollar stores. This is not all about luxury watches and branded handbags. A couple to note there is the bottom one on the left, Kiwi shoe polish. You may not remember, but it might spark your memory. At Meijer in Grand Rapids, they found cases and cases of counterfeit Kiwi shoe polish. So it does happen right nearby in the real world here. So where do bad guys find counterfeit product? One is on eBay. So here's an example. This is a replacement hip. So a hip that would go into a human body. It's on eBay for $19.99. Buy it now for $19.99 plus $9 to have it shipped. And it said on there that, so what probably happened, this might be a sample where a sales rep might use, or they might use it in a medical school to show what a replacement hip is. But bottom line, here's something out here that looks like a replacement hip. It did note that it was slightly worn. I don't know if that makes any of you a little concerned. But what might happen is someone that has access to legitimate medical devices, this could be a $20,000 hip. They may have access to the genuine packaging and genuine product, maybe swap out a genuine hip with one of these type of hips. This is how it can happen. And $20,000 can be a big profit motive for some people. A big question that we get a lot of times is, well, how can someone start making thousands of pills or thousands of counterfeit medicines? Well, it's not that hard. This is a 16-station tablet press, again, something that you could buy legitimately on eBay. So some company was getting rid of old equipment. They sell that there. That's what they do. So anybody with a PayPal account, I don't know if it was PayPal. I bet you can use PayPal, but you could buy a 16-station tablet press. Now, you don't have the molds to make that specific tablet, but that's something that if you start to have the means, you can start to find ways to get around it. This is where it can happen in our communities and locally, so it's possible out there. To just real briefly go over what Jeremy started on is intellectual property rights. These are the overall legal aspects, laws that we're dealing with. And the first one is a trademark law. That's really the logo on there, essentially. The second is patent. Patent is more like a recipe or a design, like the design of the face of a watch. Things like that would be more along the lines of a patent. Usually if there's a trademark, if there's a violation of counterfeit, say a counterfeit luxury watch, it would be a little bit of both. And then copyright is in there. That would be music, software, movies, things like that. And then trade secrets are officially under intellectual property rights. We don't really deal with those that much with counterfeit product. This is an example of the counterfeit toothpaste, and Derek has some pictures of this as well. Doesn't speak directly to them, but if you remember a couple years ago, I guess now it's 2007, so it's getting a little while ago, this was branded toothpaste found in dollar stores in the U.S. And so this can happen anywhere, anytime, and even into some of the legitimate supply chain if we're not looking. There's a tremendous amount of profit to be made by these criminals, and the opportunity is immense. There's a number of organizations working on it and focused on it right now. In Michigan, our first point of contact is the MIAC, the Michigan Intelligence Operations Center. They are aware of counterfeiting, they're looking for counterfeiting, and they have a lot of connections that go down to the IPR Center, the Intellectual Property Rights Center. That's in Washington, D.C. It's 19 different agencies, U.S. and international, are involved. One of those in there is Interpol on there, so it's global, Mexico, and others. And that's the connection from Michigan is in through MIAC to the IPR Center. The IPR Center has people at their facility in D.C. from all those agencies. And that's that's what Derek's going to talk about, and Derek's really connected with them. So we can very quickly go from finding an issue here to global awareness and global identification of some of these issues. So the resources are definitely there if we use them. To take a step in a little different direction back, one thing that we've done through the grant that we received was to do different types of surveys. And one of them that we did was of product counterfeiting in Michigan and the expectations and priorities for state and local law enforcement. This is a type of question that has direct impact for the legislator and the government itself to say what are citizens interested in and what are their level of concern. And they have a the IPPSR group has a state of the state survey. I guess it is well, it's one more slide. The State of State survey is about 1,000 Michigan residents. Every year they go out and ask questions. And Justin and I are on our third year of doing surveys on counterfeiting in Michigan. First, the challenge of law enforcement. One thing is that a real challenge is at the start for people like Derek and others is that the courts and juries perceive this as nonviolent and a commercial issue, an issue between businesses, not something the government should be involved with. And as you'll see, there's a lot of public health threats that do occur, so that's not always the case. Then also one challenge we have is that public health priorities often shift these cases from being confidential. So if a crime occurs, we want to investigate it and catch them. But if there's a public health threat, FDA and Michigan Department of Agriculture and others, we have to alert the public that there's a public health threat. So many of those cases, when we're trying to catch up and sneak up on the bad guys, we can't do that. We have to let the public know that there's a problem. In some of those cases, say like pharmaceutical drugs, the bad guys run for cover or leave the country. So that's a real challenge for us when we're looking at this. The cases are quite varied and they're complex compared to a lot of other types of crimes. Justin will go into this a little bit more as well. That means that it takes a lot more time to pursue a case itself. And what we saw in our research, there's general public awareness and concern. There is concern there. But then we wanted to look at what's the level of concern and what would they want to do with it. So our question was, first off, looking at purchasing counterfeits in Michigan by the residents. 20% had knowingly purchased counterfeits. I don't know if I think that's a high number or a low number. 11% bought products that they thought were genuine but later found to be fake. This was intriguing because that means that 11% of our population did get deceived and knew that they were deceived by counterfeit product. These slides are all in your deck if you're interested. The second part of our question was looking at expectations and priorities for law enforcement. So 27% supported higher taxes to combat counterfeiting. And that was consistent, fairly consistent year to year for us when we looked at some other years. 26% supported incarcerating counterfeiters if it meant releasing other types of criminals. There's another interesting question that we'll try to dig into a little bit more. Overall, 56% of the citizens surveyed thought the state should do more to fight product counterfeiting. But again, it goes down there that there's the questions then of increased taxes or diverting from other crime-fighting activities. We're going to keep looking at what the citizens think and how that evolves over time. We're going to look more at the way that awareness has changed as well of counterfeits or the dangerous aspects of counterfeiting as well. And with that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Justin Henry.